Hey y'all, I want to thank you everyone for showing up tonight. Y'all make sure that y'all go share this in all the groups. Make sure y'all hit a like on this video, like, share, comment, and subscribe. All the groups. Make sure y'all. Y'all, let me turn this down. I meant to put that on silent. But I want to tell y'all, make sure y'all hit like, share, comment, and anybody who's watching and viewing, subscribe. I'm just waiting on my guest to join in. He was having some issues with his audio, but I have a good guest, a great guest coming for y'all tonight. His name is Vincent Treewell. Just waiting for him to join in here in the chat with us. So I want y'all all like, share, comment, and subscribe, please. I'm thankful. I'm so happy to see all y'all in here in the chat right now. I'm so excited about this. I'm just going to give each one of you a greeting real quick because I'm thankful that you guys showed up tonight. I didn't get to go and share it in multiple groups like I usually do every show. So I'm just thankful that you guys are here. I want to say, hey, Stephen Rivas, thank you for showing up. Al Sanariga, thank you. Marty Fredericks, thank you for showing up tonight. I'm so glad y'all are here. I have so much to share with you guys tonight. I'm trying to make sure who all's in here right now. I don't want to leave anybody out. Albert Trent Jr., thank you for showing up. So, D. Robinson, thank you for showing up tonight. Y'all share this in other groups, and I'm going to share it in other groups too. I'm going to give the guest a few more minutes. Y'all sit tight for a second. I'm going to see if he's having trouble with audio and video, and I will be right back. Y'all sit tight. Don't go anywhere. Y'all are in for a good show tonight, so I'll be right back. Y'all sit tight. All right, y'all. So we're just waiting for him to get in here. I'm gonna go ahead on, and while we're talking, I just want to thank you all. Basically, what do you guys like? Basically, I want to just discuss something with y'all real quick. How do y'all feel about like in the cryptid community where there's a lot of infighting and like drama and beef and stuff like that? Overall, like when it comes to groups and stuff like that, do you guys feel like we always talk about the powers that be being an issue or being the problem when it comes to putting it out there and making these cryptids known. Do you feel like that it's the major problem or a bigger issue or problem with bringing this to light as far as the existence of cryptids? Do you believe the major issue is in the powers that be or the secret agencies that come in and like threaten people, or do you feel like that a lot of people that are in groups have a lot to do with this? What do y'all think about that? Let me know. And I'm just asking for multiple reasons because when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, this isn't about a drama or anything like that. I'm just wondering overall, what do y'all think about that? And do y'all think that it's mostly based on just a lot of stuff? It's a lot of different factors in that. What do y'all think about that? And how does that make y'all feel? And what do you think that it's really going to take in order for us to be taken seriously, in order for information to get out there as far as cryptids and dogman and Bigfoot is concerned? What are your thoughts on that? And I'm posting this. Our guest has just joined me on the stream, and I'm gonna add him in just a minute. So any of y'all who are in chat now, make sure you share this in other groups. Hey, Bama Bigfoot. Hey, Bama Animal. I don't know if that's the same person. Marquetta, thank you for showing up. I appreciate y'all so much. I will be adding the guest into this in a few minutes. Al Santoriga, thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you. Primal Cry, thank you for showing up tonight. New York Kid 92, how you doing? Kevin Clow, hey there. Stephen Reeves, honestly, the infighting, drama, and all is a big issue, in my opinion. It divides the groups and the way people think. What do y'all think about when it comes to people calling bullshit on different researchers and people's posts? Do you feel like it's disrespectful? Do you feel like that there is something to it? Do you feel like that there's, as I've heard before, Dark Waters and a few others have mentioned this to me, that some of that has to do with there's a spiritual attachment to this that breeds negativity when it comes to it. And I just kind of want to bring some stuff to the light because I feel like it's kind of important. Not my personal stuff right now, just in general. Like, what do y'all think about that? Let me just post y'all's comments up there, and I'm gonna add this guest, my guest Vincent Treewell, in here in a few minutes, and I'll let him. Yeah, D. Robinson, I agree. It's inbred, too many egos and money grabs. I agree with you on that. Darkwood said it's both in group. It's both, and groups are individuals on their own, and some paid off by organizations to snuff the truth. I agree with that. I do feel like that some of the people in the groups that we don't even realize. I think some people that are in groups, I think, are also agents as well. I think that some of them are agents, and I think that some of them are put in there for that purpose of snuffing the truth out. Now, I just wanted to throw that out there for y'all, and I want to know how y'all feel about it. Does it ever get disheartening to any of you? Because it gets disheartening to me, and it also somewhat takes away your joy or pride or just what you do, like, you know, interest in it, like going out and doing research, interviewing eyewitnesses and guests, running a group, doing shows. It kind of takes you away to a point to where you kind of get like, you know what, no matter what you say, there's always going to be people that just try to discredit you or don't believe what you have to say. Al Santoriga said too many bullshit artists in the field, too many groups have been infiltrated by MIB. I agree with you 100% on that, Al. 100%, especially the ones that you can't really shut down. They have their own opinion, their mindset, and that's their job to do that. Albert Trent Jr. said government has a role in all cryptid info, but the civilian negative influence can ruin and destroy so much progress. I totally agree with you on that. And I say that because I feel like that the members, subscribers, fans, and all that kind of stuff, I think that it basically goes along with, you know, basically, I think we're our own worst enemy when it comes to this. I think that a lot of the times people, we're going to be our next best advocate in order to basically get our word out there. You know, one of my admins today posted a comment in the group, and the comment he had made in the group, or not a comment, he made a post in the group, and he wanted to know about dogman. His question was, have any of you ever seen a dogman, a dead dogman, or have any of you ever killed a dogman? And that got some backlash and scrutiny, but some of that comes from the fact that there's different encounters and stuff like that on different shows where people have actually mentioned the fact that they have killed them or they have seen dead ones. Stephen Rivas said it keeps everyone from working together to solve the questions of do they exist, what are they, etc. And but probably somewhat during the show, I'll probably bring this up. I'm going to get ready to bring my guest into the chat here in just not the chat, but bring him on the broadcast here in just a second. And I may even bring him in on this. We'll talk about it. We're going to be talking about so much tonight. My guest tonight, I'm going to have him to come in and give an introduction. Bama Animal, Wayland. It is Wayland in Jasper, Alabama. Bama and Jasper, Alabama. Where now? How far are you from Madison County or Huntsville, Alabama? You might be kind of close to me. I didn't know you was from Huntsville. I mean, from Jasper, Alabama. I've heard of Jasper. All right, so y'all give me just a second. I'm getting ready to bring him in. I'm so happy that y'all are all here tonight because I came up with this and I actually thought, like, since I was running late tonight, I was going to actually end up cutting it off. But y'all give me just a second. I'm getting ready to bring my guest on the broadcast. Y'all give me a second. He's here now. Hold on just 1 minute. All right, y'all. I'm getting ready to bring my guest on now. I'm gonna get him to go ahead and give a brief description and introduction of himself. Let me bring that off the camera real quick. So basically, Vincent, can you basically give a brief bio on yourself and tell everybody your experience with cryptids?
Certainly. Can you hear me clearly, Bettina?
Yes, I can. You sound loud and clear.
Great, great, super. I've had a few audio problems, but seems to be working out all right now. Great. Yes, I have had a cryptid experience, which was very
Yeah.
strange. Um, I've researched other people's experiences a lot more and have a background in that. I host the podcast, The Weird Part with Vincent Treewell. Um, as far as my biography, Um, well, I was born and raised in rural Wisconsin. Um, after right out of high school, I went into the military and was in both the Marines and the Army. Then I spent 14 years in law enforcement and was a practicing attorney after that. Um, I've always been interested in the paranormal and in the broadest possible sense.
Yes.
And I like talking about these things anytime I get an opportunity. And I'm very happy to be here tonight.
I'm excited to have you tonight. Let me see. Are you on speaker or are you using your computer or are you using your phone? I hear somewhat of a background echo.
Yes, my I wanted to use my Blue Yeti microphone and headphones, and for some reason, um, StreamYard was not letting me do that, and so I'm just talking to you right through the computer.
Okay, I don't
So
hear that. It went
I
away. I don't hear it now too much.
okay, great.
So I'm gonna basically get it right into it. Have you
Sure.
had any cryptid encounters or experiences that you would like to discuss? And we'll kind of go into like several different areas because we've discussed so much when I've interviewed you before, during your pre-interview. So if you would like to kind of go into, have you had experiences with dogman or Bigfoot?
I've had something. Okay, I was in, and this I can put a very specific date on. It was Mother's Day weekend of 2019, and I was in rural western Wisconsin in Richland County, going to visit my grandmother. And I was there, and my wife and two children were along. We were all riding along, and we're in the very rural environment, and it's very hilly there, very steep up and down hills. And
Mm-hmm.
so often the farmers will plant crops at the lower part of the hill and then leave the top of the hill wooded because it's too steep to get a tractor up there. And so we're just riding along, just driving along, and we see this enormous creature come out of the cornfield, run
Mm-hmm.
across about 100 yards of open, clear space, and disappear
Yes.
into the wooded area. And she and I were both there. We both saw it at the same time. The kids were both asleep in the back, but we both saw it. But what we saw was two different things.
Mm-hmm.
She clearly saw Bigfoot. She described it as Bigfoot, as a Sasquatch, as a primate, as a very large ape man uh,
Mm-hmm.
that was struggling to get up the hill because it was a very steep hill. So even though it usually walked upright, it was kind of knuckle dragging, crawling, and hopping like a
Mm-hmm.
gorilla trying to get up a very high, steep incline.
Absolutely.
What I saw was something different. I saw a bear, but not that's the problem. Not a real bear like could exist. An enormous bear, a bear the size of a small car, like bigger than a Kodiak bear.
Oh
And
wow.
those don't live in Wisconsin. Um, and black bears don't even live in that area. Black bears are so rare in Richland County that when the next year one got loose in the county and the DNR captured it and relocated it, and it was on the news because it was so rare it never happens.
Oh
Also,
yeah.
the bear that I saw was striped, and bears aren't striped. It was black
Mm-hmm.
and brown and kind of like a blonde and like a reddish, and it looked not like anything in the real world, in the normal everyday. I won't say real because it appeared very physically real. It felt absolutely as real as any creature I've ever seen, but it's nothing that I could identify. And so we saw two very different things. But we saw them at the same time doing the same thing, and that was so far the only cryptid, not the only paranormal, but the only cryptid encounter that I've had.
Now, do you think that what you saw, do you feel like it was something that was more of a Sasquatch, or do you feel like it was a dogman?
I I think it was more of a Sasquatch. I do not get a dogman vibe off of what I saw. Um, I think that it was physical at the time that it was interacting with us,
Okay.
but I don't think it's physical all the time. And I think it manifested the appearance that it wanted us to see. And that's why it was a little different for each of us. And then it was gone. I mean, we saw it for about 5 seconds, but I don't get the impression that it's there all the time. And it,
Okay.
like, it feeds and lives like just a normal, very large animal. I got the impression this is a manifestation of something else. It's physical at that minute, but it's not there now. You know what I mean? It might be there now, but it's not there all the time. You know, I don't think it had like a den to go back to, or that it like feeds on crops or animals or something. I didn't get that impression. We were being shown something, but that might not really be what it is. That might not be its true face. That's
You
the impression
had,
I got.
well, you had just mentioned that you don't think that they're physical all the time. Are you referring to Bigfoot and Dogman? And if so, why do you say? Because I'm right there with you, but I want to know your reasoning behind why you say that you don't think that they're physical all the time.
Oh, because to have a physical creature, even a very rare one, you have to have a certain amount of breeding population. And they have to be able to feed, and they have to be able to reproduce, and they have to have a certain amount, of land and, habitat. And if they were physical all the time, like, say, a wolf, like just a
Absolutely.
regular gray wolf, we know how many of those there are. And once in a while, one will get killed. And once in a while, one will wander into a public area and be found. And,
Absolutely.
that happens with bears.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, bears get hit by cars, bears show up in some place they're not supposed to be, and everybody can see them. Dogman, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, all the cryptids, they don't really do that. They like never mess up. They never fail. They never get hit by a semi truck. They never, no matter how strong they were, eventually one of them would make a mistake and be exposed if they were physical all the time. I think they're physical when you're dealing with them. No, they're physical as hell. But when
Absolutely.
then they're not, and they just kind of they can leave an impression like tracks and
Mm-hmm.
claw marks and things, and I think they can even do damage. But then they're gone. They're gone from our world or our plane or whatever you want to call it.
I
That's
agree. Well, because I'm the reason I brought that up was because, and y'all who are joining now, y'all please go share this in other groups and other chats and wherever groups you're in, go and share this. I want everybody to hear the information that's going to be shared here tonight because we're going to be hitting on some pretty deep topics. And I do want to say on what you were saying there, Vincent, I do think that in the Bigfoot dogman community, there is a lot of different beliefs when it comes to these things. You got the people who believe that they're straight up flesh and blood, and there's the ones that believe that they're interdimensional, paranormal. Some believe that they are aliens from another planet, and everything else in between. So my thoughts on it, I feel like that they are both flesh and blood and supernatural at the same time. Um, a guy who's here in the comments right now. I talked to him earlier. He has his own group, and he has some very interesting theories that he brought up when I talked to him earlier today. And he brought up the simple fact that a lot of the things people don't realize, and I can go outside of the Bible, and I actually probably will tonight, because I want to bring up a few things that people don't really realize. I can go as far as cryptids are concerned without even bringing up the Bible, because you have people like was it Marco Polo? Not Marco Polo. It was what was it? If you're still in the comment right now, Chris, like tell me again. I can't remember who it was that came here. It was Hernando de Soto. When they came here, they saw dog-faced creatures when they came here to the Americas, and I can't remember who that was now. And I also know that what was it? Saint Christopher was depicted as a dog-faced
I
person.
wondered if that was going to come up. Yes, Saint
Yep,
Christopher in the Eastern Orthodox Christianity is said to be a dogman. I mean, a man with a visibly dog head. Yes.
absolutely. And people don't realize that when it comes down to it, in the conversation I had with this guy who was, an admin of his own group, we discussed this earlier. And he had mentioned, the same thing that I've thought of plenty of times. People are depicting what they saw. And that's just my thoughts and theories on that. Now, some people say, well, no, they were depicting like people wearing masks, and well, is that the deal all over the world throughout all cultures? Because you got throughout the Bible and even outside of the Bible, you've also got the ancient Greek and the ancient Egyptians. You also got in the Native American cultures like the Aztecs and Mayans, like Kukulkan and Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl. If you want to look at, we talk about dogman and bigfoot and stuff like that all the time, because those are well-known cryptids that we discuss. Jersey Devil. But when it comes down to the native cultures that we're discussing, Quetzalcoatl and Kukulkan, they were we called it the plumed serpent. Well, plumed means feathers. That means feathered serpent. So, and another way to look at that is a flying serpent. So, a flying serpent. So, is that like I brought up to the guy that I was talking to earlier today, and I'm gonna leave him anonymous because I don't know if he wants it out there like his name, but when it comes down to it, plumed flying serpent. So, is that you can look at that like pterodactyl, because we know that dinosaurs are also looked at as serpents, and then you can also look at that another way, and biblically speaking, or not even biblically, culturally speaking, you can even look at it from the standpoint of flying serpent, according to, if you want to take biblical aspects, or maybe ancient Chinese or anything else like that. The ancient Chinese often spoke of dragons in their history, so that's a flying serpent. The Bible references the devil and Satan, that old serpent called the devil and Satan. So if you look at it from that aspect, you got a flying serpent there. And you got, I can't remember, it was the Seraphim in the Bible. Somebody on one of the chats, and I haven't researched this or looked deeply into it, but they mentioned the fact that the Seraphim were not these beautiful human type looking creatures that we depict or think of when we look at it. They were saying that they were serpentine in their appearance. So you have that aspect of it, and then you have like the History Channel and secular belief or scientific belief systems that come and say that the Anunnaki were serpentine in their appearance as well. So you got so many different aspects of this. And when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, I don't need to use the Bible to try to say, well, cryptids are ancient. You don't have to do that, because if you just look at now today, like we called them thousands or millions of years ago, we called them dinosaurs. But they were, they say that, alligators and lizards and snakes are all derived from dinosaurs. So those are still dragons or serpents. I mean, they're serpents. So you have like I guess the Bible talks about Leviathan. Those are water serpents, or I don't know what else you would call that other than that. But then you're seeing like within these last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, we had these tsunamis where different serpent type, dragon type, water dragon type creatures, Leviathan creatures, were actually washing up on these beaches, or somewhat, what do they say, extinct dinosaurs that were actually still showing up all these years later. They thought they didn't exist anymore. What are your thoughts on that? And do you feel like that they basically, pretty much for the most part, they knew that these things were still there, or do you think that there's a major cover up in all of our history as far as these creatures and cryptids are concerned?
Oh, I think that when you have Orthodox history, you're only scratching the surface. We've been here a lot longer, and that's just humans. Um, we don't know, we know probably 1% of all the things that ever happened historically. I mean, a fraction of 1%. We don't know so much of who we even are. Um,
Mm-hmm.
do I have, now these are just my personal views, and I'll just put them out there for what it's worth. But the dragons, and there's in some form or fashion a worldwide belief in dragons. And
Mm-hmm.
dragons are always intelligent. They're not just the crude, dumb dinosaurs that we're taught about. Dragons are always genius level and above compared to a human. They're very brilliant creatures. They're highly intelligent. And my own personal belief is that the dinosaurs existed. They were intelligent. Of them were intelligent, just like we have humans, we have cows, we have pigs, we have differing levels of animal life. I believe there are different levels of dinosaur life. Um,
Absolutely.
and the smart dinosaurs, I don't believe were wiped out by an asteroid or a meteor. I don't think that's what happened.
What do you
I
think happened?
I think they wiped themselves out in a huge nuclear war, but
Okay.
they didn't all die, and they had high technology, and some escaped into space, and sometimes return, and some went underground into bunkers. I mean, we have bunkers right now, you know, mostly for the government people, but we have plenty of bunkers. So some went underground, some went underwater, some
Mm-hmm.
went out into space, and they've all of those come back and interact with us and with each other. And that explains, I think, a lot. I don't think the dinosaurs ever fully died out.
I
And
don't either.
that yes, I think that they are around. I Now this is just my 2 cents, but I believe that they symbolically were the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Um, that they that's a story about, I hate to use the word reptilians because you know where this is going, and
I'm writing it down.
I don't believe the Queen of England turns into a reptile. Okay, I don't believe that,
Yeah,
but
I don't either.
I believe that there are intelligent reptile beings that do interact with humans, and power, possibly in more ways than one, and they have been influencing us and meddling with us our entire history. Period.
I
For
agree.
thousands of years.
Now, I'm gonna go back to what you were saying, but real quick, I usually take questions at the end, but I want to take a question real quick from Al Santoriga. He said, the, I guess the Bigfoot or the creature that you saw that had the striped appearance, did it have a muzzle or a flat face? I'm gonna let
Now,
you answer that, and then we're gonna go right back to
sure.
this topic.
What I saw had a muzzle, like a bear,
Mm-hmm.
an enormous fat bear. But that's what. Yes. Now
Okay.
it's a weird thing, you know. What what my wife saw at the same time had an ape face that she referred to as looking like the orangutan one in the current version of the Planet of the Apes.
Okay. Bigfoot, Dogwood said Bigfoot had been hit by trucks. Same with Dogman. Seen many cover-ups with that. Yet I do believe they are extra dimensional. Dark Woods, I agree with you. I do know that they have been hit by trucks, and I do feel like that some people have killed them as well, and I believe that they've also killed people as well. Also, a lot of times I feel like that gets swept under the rug and covered up, and they get secreted away to underground, non-disclosed locations. We even know, like, if you think back to the Montauk Project in New York, I mean, it had all kind of weird stuff that was going on there. If you think about that movie, what was it, Dr. Moreau, the Island of Dr. Moreau, or something like that?
Yes, the island of Dr. Moreau, yes. They're making animals into humanoid creatures. They're almost human. They're partially human. Government
And,
lab type of things. Yes.
and I'm putting a star next to this later on. I want to bring up Phil Schneider. I won't bring it up right now because I want to go back into what you were saying about the serpent in the Garden of Eden, because it's making me think, and I'm going to Google that real quick. But can you tell me, while I'm looking that up, can you basically tell us why you think that the serpent in the Garden of Eden? Tell me your thoughts on that. I'm going to tell you my ideas and thoughts on that as well.
Sure. Well, I see it more as a parable, as symbolic rather than like a literal event. Um, there's a bunch of reasons for that we don't want to get too deep in the weeds in theology right now. I wouldn't imagine, but that's the way I see it. And I see this woman, humans at that
Mm-hmm.
point are they're very naive. They don't really think the way we do. They don't really have free will. They are almost like animals. Not exactly, but they're more operating on instincts, and they don't really have a full consciousness. And then this being comes in. It's a reptilian being. Okay, he's a reptile, and he's not slithering in. He's walking in because, and we've talked about this before.
Yes,
He's
I'm glad you're
punished
bringing this up.
by having his legs removed and made to slither on the ground. That's the punishment. But the punishment comes later. When he approaches Eve, he approaches her at least as tall as she is and walking and talks to her. And he's able to talk and she's able to understand him. And he's able to introduce ideas like, why don't you do what you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And he is a very intelligent being that sets himself up as the equal of the God that they've been interacting with, and
Absolutely.
tells them that they can be free and they can do what they want. And this is not a rattlesnake, okay? This is obviously, it's not a python. It's a reptilian being, but it's a very intelligent reptilian being, and very,
Absolutely.
he's said to be very cunning, and he presents this philosophical argument to the humans, and they follow him, and they eat of the fruit, and their eyes are opened, and they develop a full consciousness, and they develop free will, and there's penalties to that too, but he,
He was reasoning with her.
yes, he reasons with her, exactly, and he makes a reasoned argument, and he's very much, an intelligent, sentient being that walks around and is a reptile. And then,
Absolutely.
he's punished and he's made into a snake. But I got the impression that was kind of a parable, that these are things that come down and interact with us. And, without, I'm not a biblical scholar, but the principalities and powers of the air,
Yes.
they come from the air, they come from space, the heavens, and they come down and talk to us.
That's
And
very interesting. I never thought about it like that. Can you repeat that one more time?
where the Apostle Paul references principalities, we battle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers of the air. And that kind of gets brushed over. But principalities and powers of the air, they're up in the sky, they're in space, they're in the
Yes.
heavens, and they come down and interact with us and tell us things. And those things may not be true, but they may want us to believe them. And they manipulate us and attempt to manipulate us. And there's all kinds of manipulation going on. And they are reptiles. Now, that doesn't cover everything, but that covers some things, you know.
No, you were while you were talking, I was looking up. I'm trying to look up exactly where. I know it's in Genesis chapter 3. And I'm looking right now where he cursed that serpent. But basically, hold on. Basically, the serpent came, like what Vincent is telling y'all right now. This serpent came in and it had a full conversation with her. She wasn't having, to me, in my view, like Vincent was saying, I don't feel like she was having a conversation with like your random snake, python, or cobra or anything like that. She's having a conversation with something that's on her level, something that is standing upright, something that was a known creature or entity or being that was there with her at that time. She didn't find it strange. Like if I went outside right now and I see a rattlesnake or any regular garden snake or anything like that, and it starts talking to me, I'm gonna be like, oh, hold on now. I'm running back in the house. She didn't run back, she didn't do anything. Like that was normal to her. And that's why I'll be trying to tell y'all, like a lot of the time, and you don't have to agree with me, you don't have to be a Christian to believe this. Forget Christianity if you don't believe it. Like I always say, if you don't appreciate Christianity, you don't agree with it, then completely just disregard everything I said, because you don't even need the Bible to try to prove these things, because outside of that, you got enough within other ancient cultures that can also back this up outside of Christianity. I think in some of the African cultures and also in the Indian cultures and Hindu cultures, they have creatures they call the Nagas.
Oh, you can go all around the world.
I
Yeah,
mean, Anunnaki
literally
were also
all
all
around the
around the
world.
world. So,
Mhm.
so I don't need the Bible to prove that. Now, but hold on. So I want to say this, and I'll have to go into it further later. But basically, that serpent that spoke to her, it wasn't strange to her. It was able to speak to her on her level, but it's cursed for having deceived the woman, according to the Bible, Eve. For deceiving her was that on your belly, you will crawl for the rest of your days, which means at that point in time, that serpent was not crawling on its belly, which means that it was either, I'm not even going to say it was on all fours. I mean, because that's the same as an alligator or a lizard or something like that. I feel like that it was basically upright or standing on 2 feet, and that's just my thoughts on it. And we are all like, able to have our own opinion, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and it's up for debate. But that's just my thoughts on it. So, but it makes sense when you look at the fact that today we've talked about reptilians, and people have reptilian encounters. I mean, you hear more of cryptid encounters and sightings around the world, or here in the United States anyway, in certain areas, about people talking about reptilians, but you don't hear too much about it that often. Now, the times where I've heard most about reptilians has been when it's been discussed as far as aliens are concerned, and in certain areas of the United States, maybe more like Arizona and certain areas like that. You'll hear this every now and then. And then years ago, when I was researching the Illuminati and Skull and Bones and secret societies and stuff like that, you had people like David Icke and Jordan Maxwell talking about this to a great degree, and Alex Jones also. But nowadays, you don't hear anything from them that much. And I also believe, what was his name? The guy who wrote the book, Behold a Pale Horse, William Cooper, Bill Cooper. They talked about these things. So this is not brand new. Now, when you talk about the reptilians, you have like what Vincent was mentioning a few minutes ago about like how people back in the early 2000s were talking about Queen of England or these different celebrities and stuff like that. Look at the reptilian eyes. I do feel like that there was something to that, but in my mind, and I might be completely wrong about this, I do feel that the same way that people look at the reptilians, I do believe in shapeshifters. I do believe in that. I do believe also in demonic possession. Demonic possession is the serpent or Satan or the devil. If it's a serpent, it's got serpentine eyes. I mean, I believe some of that is demonic possession, as well as just the all over the black eyes and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different factors to that. And a lot of these celebrities, when you want to look at it from the reptilian standpoint of it, if it comes to the ones who you've seen on videos and news clips and stuff like that, where they went into this serpentine type eye or the tongue or the forked tongue or any of that kind of stuff, to me, that was demonic possession or some type of takeover. Some people are open to that, and some people are welcoming of that and have actually sold their soul to the devil and actually want these entities to overtake them. So there's a lot to it, but I want to make sure that people understand that when it comes to cryptids, when it comes to the world of the paranormal, the unexplained and stuff like that, this stuff can be explained in so many ways. It can be explained in the Bible or outside the Bible. You have to wonder why several books during the Council of Nicaea were taken out. Genesis 6. Vincent, can you do you know anything about Genesis 6 when it talks about the giants and what the
Oh yes,
Nephilim?
yes, the Nephilim,
You want to
and
go into that?
yes, well, just that the Nephilim are what is described as the sons of God, not in the sense of being Christ, but
Hmm.
being angelic beings that are, you might call them ultra terrestrials, you might say they're at a higher plane, but they're very powerful beings that are not exactly like us, but
Hmm.
are close enough to us to have sex with human women and
Hmm.
produce offspring. And
Hmm.
their offspring become these demigods, what they call giants, what they call Nephilim, who are very large, very powerful, and are the great, they call them, I'm not quoting word for word, but the great men of old, and that they were like Goliath in the Bible, who stood like 9 feet tall and
Hmm.
was incredibly mighty. And you can take this all around the world because the same story is repeated, repeated, repeated. In Greece and Rome, they believed that the pagan gods came down and interbred with human women. And it seems to always be the Nephilim males coming down and having sex with human females. It doesn't seem to go the other way very much. But
It's no,
why
yeah,
that
I
is, but like Hercules and um, Dionysus and various great heroes were the offspring of gods and human women. And I mean, that's all around the world. And that, to me,
absolutely.
is a history of something. I mean, something happened that didn't, nobody just made that up and it spread. No, all around the world. No, it did not. That there were real, that's a retelling of a reality that happened. That's
I
my,
agree with you 100%. Like you were just mentioning, about the giants. No, Chloe. I know. Giants of old, men of renown. That's in Genesis 6, chapter 4. And I was trying to pull that up. But Genesis 6, chapter 4. And outside of that, again, y'all, like, there's something for everybody here. Like, even if you're not Christian, you can take what it's worth and you can take your own look into certain things, the ancient Sumerian, ancient Egyptian, ancient Greece, even ancient Roman. There's so many different aspects of this that you don't even have to go with the Bible. And I will bring several different aspects of this outside of the Bible tonight because I know I cover biblical aspect of it a whole lot. And so I'm going to try to start coming from a secular standpoint too, to show y'all that it doesn't only have to come from the Bible. I just bring up stuff because being a Christian, for me, even if I wasn't a Christian right now, the rational mind, like if you need it to make sense, for me, dogman and Bigfoot, it needs to make sense. Anything in life for me needs to make sense. Even a random conversation with somebody. If somebody were to break up with, I'm in a relationship, you break up with me without any explanation for it. I need that to make sense. What did I do? Like, I need an answer. I need closure. I need this to make sense. So that's just me, my rationalization. So on this, like the whole flesh and blood aspect, flesh and blood, we understand that Dogman and Bigfoot are flesh and blood. We understand that because we know that they have offspring. We know that they eat. We know that they can be killed. We know that they have killed. We know that they have, it's just several different aspects. They built shelters. They climb trees. All these different things. So we do understand that they're flesh and blood. Now, the other side of that is that they're not just like your regular bear or your lion or your dog or your wolf, where they only are just flesh and blood, because there's other things that they do and can do that is not explainable with, I don't know what you want to call it scientifically. It's not scientifically explainable and even rationally explainable, because you see with it when it comes to these cryptids, dogman, bigfoot, and several other ones, that they are able to appear and disappear. They're able to be walking and then walking through the snow or the mud, and then their footprints and stuff like that disappear after they walk a certain distance. And I'm going to go back because I don't want to divert off, but I just wanted to bring this up. But I'm going to divert back in just a second to talking about the Nephilim and talking about the giants, because Christopher brought up some really, Vincent brought up some really good points. But when it comes to these cryptids, if you have of the only flesh and blood mindset, then you need to make sense of the fact of how are they able to disappear? How are they able to cloak, which I call the predator effect, where they're able to be see-through or translucent, where you can still see their form? How are they able to manifest like you're looking at something and then there's nothing there, and all of a sudden it comes up out of nowhere? How is that possible? How do they have this unnatural ability to jump 30 or 40 feet, like straight up a cliffside? How are they able to mind speak? When was the last time your dog looked at you and told you in your mind and you knew exactly? Like Chloe's down there on the floor right now. Chloe has never walked up to me and I read her mind and she said, "Please, I want a snack right now. Please go in there and get my dog food." There's never been a time when that's ever happened. I mean, she might walk up to me and look at me like, "I'm hungry, I'm ready to eat," because I know that that's the time that she usually eats and I know what she's asking me for. But there's never been a time when there's been mind speak. There's different aspects of these creatures that do not line up with a natural animal. They are able to open car doors, they're able to open the doors of your house, they're able to do so many different things. What are your thoughts on that? And then we're going to go back to these demigods and the giants that you were discussing a few minutes ago.
Yes, I totally agree with them being flesh and blood, but not only flesh and blood. If Bigfoot was just a undiscovered primate, a gorilla that adapted to cold climates, we'd have him in the zoo. You go see him anytime you want. It wouldn't be. We have very rare animals that are documented, that are in captivity. Hell, they'd probably be endangered, and we'd have to like protect them. Um, that something like this is seen fairly frequently by a lot of people and is seen as a physical being, but it
Mm-hmm.
does things that, and when I say Bigfoot, I'm also covering dogman and related cryptids, including one I just really want to mention in a second. But if they were just flesh and blood and nothing else, we'd have them in captivity. They'd be scientifically dissected. They'd be publicly, it'd be, if it'd be open, there'd be nothing to hide. They do things that animals can't do. And you're right, they appear and disappear, apparently at will. Sometimes they disappear in a flash of light. Sometimes they come out of a portal. Sometimes they glow or have glowing eyes. That
Mm-hmm.
no natural mammal has those kind of glowing eyes. It's not a thing. Um, they talk sometimes, sometimes audibly in a language we don't understand, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes with I'm glad you mentioned the mind speak. There's a huge psychic dimension to the Bigfoot and Dogman and other cryptid experience. Um, and that doesn't happen with raccoons. That doesn't happen with,
Mm-hmm.
howler monkeys. It doesn't happen like that. They have a spiritual and a psychic and a paranormal slash supernatural nature that's way beyond just a flesh and blood animal. I just wanted to briefly mention the Loveland Frogman, and that's my favorite cryptid. It was in Loveland, Ohio, I believe,
Yeah,
and
tell us about that because I've never heard of that.
people over several decades, reported seeing a frogman, what they described as an upright, approximately 5 foot tall humanoid with the head and body of a frog, who was sometimes seen sometimes alone and sometimes more than one, and sometimes they were holding a staff and appeared to be doing some sort of ritual. Um, make of that what you will, but people reported this and were very serious about it. And this was like between the 50s and the 80s, and
Yes.
still there are periodic reports here and there. And what are these people seeing? And is that a form of the reptilians we were discussing?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think so, yes. And I love the fact he's carrying a staff and they're doing some kind of ritual. I mean, that's not animal behavior, you know.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. Now, one thing I wanted to bring up that you mentioned a few minutes ago when we were talking about how stuff is all intertwined, and you got to talking about now Christianity. For those of you who are Christians that understand this on a biblical level, like, and I'm not perfect, and I swear to God, like I'm not like, but at one point in time, I wanted to be a theologian, and the reason for that was because like the Book of Revelation was so interesting, and these things like this happening, the things that they were talking about in the Book of Revelations is supposed to come up on the earth. You got to look at that too. The Bible is a very supernatural book in and of itself. Some of the creatures and beings that are discussed in this book, well, most Christians, like even my parents or anybody else, like you who've had encounters or sightings, and they were like, "Oh, you're full of it. You just didn't see anything." They think you're crazy, but it's like, do you not realize that the Bible talks about dragons? Do you not realize that unicorns are brought up in the Bible? And some people might say, well, that's what do you call it, a rhinoceros? Okay, fine. Even if that were so, regardless, the Bible mentions lions, wolves, and everything else. Why didn't it call it a rhinoceros in the Bible? Now, number one, number two, regardless of all that, you have also the aspect of the four living creatures spoken of in the Bible. The four living creatures, one had the head of a man, one had the head of an ox, one had the head of an eagle, and one had the head of, what was the other one? It was four different heads, maybe a lion, but it had four different types of heads. Now, when you look at this, like you got the head of an ox, and then like if that's the case, it specifically said, and I don't know what the four living creatures. We're not in the Book of Revelation days. Maybe we're close to it. I don't know, but it said it had the head of. It didn't say it had the body of. The head of. Why not say that it was an ox? Why not say that it was a bull? Why not say that it was an eagle? It said it had the head of. So, what was the rest of the body? Was that a human type body? And if so, then it makes you wonder, okay, so the head of an eagle or the head of a falcon, is that not Osiris in Egyptian mythology? Is that not Horus? I'm not, I'm Christian. I'm saying, I'm just telling y'all, I don't need the Bible to defend this. So then you got like the alligator head, I think, Sobe water. We call it Sobe water, but Sobe water, I don't know, that's come from the Egyptian god Sobek. Sobek. That's an alligator headed god. So then you got like the four living creatures, the head of an ox or the head of a bull. Is that not a minotaur?
Yeah.
I mean, if that is exactly saying that it's just got that head, and then you got the uh, lion men of Moab because they look like lion headed men. So then you got people today discussing cat people. Now, I've never seen a cat person because I've seen Dogman, and a lot of people have seen Bigfoot and all other creatures and entities in between. I'm a person at this point that I'm not ever going to say what somebody is lying about. I'm never going to call bullshit on anybody's sighting or encounter because being a Christian, believing in supernatural beings and creatures is not outside the realm of possibilities. And even outside of Christianity and outside the Bible, cultures all over the world have talked about these things for years. So I don't need the Bible to explain it. So when it comes down to it at the end of the day, this stuff is strange. This stuff is weird, but it's been here for thousands of years. Like the Bible says, there's no new thing under the sun. And it ain't. These things have been here. What are your thoughts on that, Vincent?
Oh, that's absolutely true. There is none of this is new. There's not one thing we're going to talk about tonight or that's going to happen in the next year that hasn't gone back. If you look at it, hasn't gone back forever, for a very, very long time. Yes, you've got a lot of references there that doesn't come up in Sunday school a whole lot, does it?
Uh-uh.
Nobody really wants to explain the lion-headed men of Moab, but they're in there. And yes, I've always been fascinated with the Minotaur. That who comes up with that idea?
And that's Greek mythology.
Yes,
that's not even in the
no,
Bible.
that's not in the Bible. No, that's Greek mythology. But again, it's the combining of the human and the animal is something that we're right on. Well, officially, we're right on the edge of being able to do. I kind of think we've been able to do it for a while, and we may not be the first species on Earth that's able to do that, to manipulate the genetic code. And the reptilians may have been able to do that and may have unleashed all sorts of things into the world that were were chimeras, were a combination of something and something else. And you've brought up a very interesting theory about the Nephilim, and we talked about them fathering the great heroes of ancient times, but the Nephilim are, well, they were perverse and they did a lot of stuff, and they didn't just father human offspring. They may have fathered bestial offspring and incredible creatures that had their manipulated DNA. And I found that to be an absolute fascinating theory for where a lot of weird stuff would come from. Things like the Loch Ness Monster and things that, other cryptids around the world, in legend and in the present.
Absolutely. Well, no, it's interesting what you were saying about that, because like, you were saying that they didn't only create the giants, and I will go into giants because I want to discuss that. And I know I said at some point, and I'm gonna do a show strictly on the Nephilim. I've got to discuss that because that is also going to help, and I will somewhat either do one on the Nephilim and kind of drag in Genesis 6 as well as um, the book of Enoch into this, maybe the book of Giants, if I can kind of try to pull that together also, because the book of Enoch goes much greater depth than Genesis 6 does, which makes me believe that this cover up today makes me understand why the book of Enoch, the book of Jasher, the book of Giants, the book of the Cave of Secrets, and all these things were taken out of the Bible. These books, in my opinion, during the Council of Nicaea were taken out of the Bible because early on back then, the powers that be, or the Illuminati, or whatever you want to call them, the enlightened ones, they were removing things that back then because they had this whole New World Order mindset. The serpent back then was trying to create the serpent seed. He was trying to destroy God's creation. And by doing so, of course, they have to do a cover up. They're not going to want people in the world today or at any point, generations coming from that point on up, to know what they were doing. So that's why, even in the Bible, where there was the whole thing about bestiality being a sin, because if that wasn't actually going on, then it would have never been discussed. But it was being discussed. And some of those things were being taught by the Nephilim, or the fallen angels that were here at that time. And that's actually brought up. And it actually goes into several different aspects of what they were teaching people: how to make weapons, makeup, jewelry, all these different type of things that they were teaching people, witchcraft, everything else. Um, so so it's so many different aspects to that. Now, one of my things is that I found strange, not so much strange, but well, no, strange, because at the time I understand it now in my own mind, and this is just my theory on it. When Genesis 6, the reason for the flood was supposed to be to remove the Nephilim from the earth, the creation of the fallen angels and the human women, because they were wreaking havoc on the earth. They were killing everything. They were destroying everything. They had even got to a point where they started actually consuming and eating humans that were there. People don't realize that your fairy tales or your stories that you grew up on as a kid, fee fi fo fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman, Jack the Giant Slayer, They were eating people. But we were taught that's a fairy tale. No, it wasn't. It was doing that in the Bible. When what was it? Moses, when he sent Jacob and all those to go over and spy out the promised land, when they got over there and they reported and they came back and gave him a report of the people who lived there in that land, they came back and they told Moses, we don't want to go over there. We can't destroy the inhabitants that live there. This is in the book of Numbers, chapter 13, verse 33. They basically came back and told him, we can't destroy the people up there. We were as grasshoppers in their sight and also in our own sight. So what they were telling him is that we were the size of grasshoppers in the sight of these humans, these beings that were there. We was the size of grasshoppers next to them. And they said they were also eating the inhabitants thereof. They were telling him, we don't want to go. We can't defeat these people. The land of milk and honey, you can forget about it because they over there eating people. They're huge. We can't do it. And so basically, they were telling you back then, this is a Nephilim. That wasn't no average size everyday human being. Are you familiar with Steve Quell and L.A. Marzulli?
I can't say that. I can't say that I am. But go ahead,
There's
please.
L.A. Marzulli and Steve Quell. You heard of the Giant of Kandahar back in the early 2000s, though, right? If not, then I'll tell you about it, and you can kind of look into it
Please
later.
do.
Because that was deep. This was in the early 2000s, and what was it called? It was a part of Afghanistan, the Kandahar Giant, Afghanistan, Kandahar Giant. I think this is called Kandahar, and I don't know if that is in Afghanistan or what. But there was a military force, and if any of y'all listen to the comments right now, y'all got extra information on this, and y'all speak on it and leave a comment, and I'll post it up. But the Kandahar Giant, they found out about this. There was a military team that went over there to whatever their mission was that they were supposed to do. That team of military soldiers never came back, so there was another team sent over to go look for those soldiers. And I think that second team also didn't come back. So the third team that ended up going over there, when they got there to this specific spot, I don't know if they had equipment on them that was trackable, or how this third team that went over was able to find them. But when they got there, they found the equipment of the soldiers that had the previous two teams that had been sent over. And when they got there and they found this, they were at the bottom of this cave. But what was interesting was that they were told during their training that you get ready to shoot that you may find in this area, shoot up higher than a man's head. They didn't understand what it meant at that time, but after they got there and what they encountered, they absolutely understood what it meant then. They didn't get it at the time. But when they got there to this cave there in Kandahar, Afghanistan, this was around 2002. Y'all are not familiar with this, y'all look up L.A. Marzulli on YouTube and look it up. And look up Steve Quayle too, Genesis 6 Giant. He got all the like different skeletons and stuff like that. The tallest one, 32 feet tall. So I'm gonna tell y'all a lot of stuff about this now. The Kandahar Giant, when they got over there to this cave and they found like, okay, there's other soldiers' bodies, a giant came running out of that cave. This giant, they say, I don't remember what the height was on this thing, but it was huge. They had to call in, before I even get to that, it before they actually killed it, it took out, I don't know, about 5, 6 more, probably even more than that, several different soldiers were killed before it was actually taken out. It wasn't until multiple shots were taken at its head when it was finally able to come down and it was killed. They said that this giant that came out, they said that it had a horrendous smell. It was like so terrible that it almost made them want to gag. It made them physically sick, just the smell of it. The skin color was like a grayish in color. It was, they said it was dressed in like ancient garb, like where it had like, I don't know what you would call loincloth or whatever wrapped around its feet, and it had this huge spear, and it actually speared one of the soldiers that it killed. It actually put him on in like a kebab and killed this man. And you had soldiers on this show talking with L.A. Marzulli. L.A. Marzulli, he interviewed them, but they were blacked out. They didn't want their faces shown on this. Several soldiers since that time have actually said, yeah, we know about these things, and we know that this actually happened over there in Kandahar, Afghanistan. But they took that thing out, but it took so many hundreds of shots to take it out, and they took a headshot. Now, I think what ended up coming in, they had to have two or three Black Hawk helicopters to come in with like this special, I don't know what you call it, like some kind of containment, not a device, but whatever you want to call it. For lack of a better word, I'm gonna call it like a basket or whatever. But it's not a basket, but I don't even know what else to call it right now. But it was large, so large that I think that this thing that was gonna be held underneath, I guess by ropes, underneath these helicopters. I think they said that that thing was like 1,200 to 1,400 pounds. So you can imagine it took that many helicopters to take this thing out. Now, whatever military base or wherever secret facility or location it was taken back to, that's up for debate, and nobody really knows that. But that's a Nephilim. These things exist, and it's not just there. There's also a Sasquatch Chronicles episode. Y'all look it up when you get a chance. Sasquatch Chronicles, and I can't remember what episode, but the episode is called Mountain Giants. And I don't know who the guy was that was on that episode, but he actually talked about the fact that there are giants right here alive still today in America. So when you look into this, there's people who've had sightings and still have sightings to this day. Like I said before, there's nothing new under the sun. When you look at, and so it's so many different areas. I could do a show just on giants alone, back
Oh,
all the way back.
I think you should.
I am. We're going to do this. I'm going to get you on in on this, and somebody else who's in the comments right now, if I can get him to join in on it.
Yes. I don't mean to interrupt. It's just I have, now that you mention it, heard of the Kandahar Giant. Um, I haven't extensively like looked into it, but I have certainly heard of what you're talking about. And it's amazing to me how much that modern day story that only happened like 20 years ago um, parallels the ancient Greek myth of the Cyclops and this
Hmm.
massive one-eyed giant that's eating people. And all around the world, you have these what seem like Nephilim offspring that then the local people worship because they're so
Hmm.
mighty compared to them, and then they feed upon them, and it's a very brutal and messed up situation, and you have that legends of that all around the world, you know.
Uh,
So that's, yeah.
yes, and Castor Polex 15 said the royals of Europe are of the serpent. I'm glad he brought this. Castor Polex, I'm glad you brought this up because I actually have. This is so interesting. I'm glad they brought this up because I actually have a note. I'm gonna put a star by that right now. I actually have a note on my paper right now to bring up reptilians, Dracula, Draconian, and dragons. Castor Polex said the royals of Europe are of the serpent, dragon, Draco bloodlines, Vlad the Impaler, and the Order of the Knights of Draco. And what people don't realize, if you Google and look up what does the name Dracula actually mean, what is the definition of the name Dracula? He said Vlad the Impaler. Vlad the Impaler is where we get our Dracula from. That was who the real guy was. Who the horror movie character Dracula was named for. Vlad the Impaler. And you can look up the history on Vlad the Impaler, but that's where Dracula came from. Now he said Vlad the Impaler and the Order of the Knights of Draco. Order of the Knights of Draco, Order of the Knights of the Dragon. When you Google and look up the name of what does the name Dracula mean? It means son of the devil. I didn't make that up. Google it right now. Son of the devil. The name Drake also means son of the devil. And any other form of the name Dracula, Drake, whatever, that means son of the devil. When you take it
Just
back
leave
and you
that hang
look
out
at,
there for pop culture.
yes, so
Just leave
when
that hang out there. I didn't say it,
so
but I did not say it.
and I'm just telling y'all right now, so when it comes down to it, there's no new thing under the sun. So if you got that, you have to understand, like in biblical times, when people named people stuff in Hebrew and Greek and Aramaic and all these ancient, names had meanings. People were named for whatever what was going on at that time or what their family lineage was. Um, so when you look at that, Order of the Knights, the dragon, or Draco, and then you look at the fact that people talk the draconian race of aliens, the draconian race of aliens, the dragon race of aliens, the serpent race of aliens, the reptilian race of aliens. Bring it all together, make it make sense. Reptilians was there in the Bible. Dragons was there in the Bible. Demons, all that stuff. Prince of the power of the air. Prince of the power of the air? UFOs, aliens, draconian. What is it? What is that? What is it? Is it a planet or is that a solar system or a galaxy or what? Y'all know what I'm talking about? Something draconian. Leave it in the comments down there. I need y'all to speak on this right now. What is that? It's a draconian planet right now, or solar system, something like that. But or what do you call that thing? I'm trying to think right now. Like you have the horoscope, and when you get the horoscope, you got the different ones like Pisces. What do you call those? Constellations. I think there's a draconian constellation. So when it comes to these, the devil's a prince of the power of the air, or Lucifer, whatever that, serpent, dragon, Draco, Dracula, the undead. What is the undead? The undead means that it never was a human. You know, in what we've been taught in movies, it was a human and they got bit by a vampire, but they're undead. What do they also call them? The damned. Did they not tell you this? Hell's angel? So when you look at it, the undead, do y'all realize that people think, like some people think that people die and they become demons that were evil on earth? Demons never, according to what, they were always a spiritual entity. They never had a body. They were always, that's why like demons are able to possess people. Or when you hear them also sometimes referred to as disembodied spirits. Well, they're referred to as disembodied spirits because they don't have a body. And because they don't have a body, therefore, when they possess a person, they are taking on flesh and blood. And if you understand that you, as a human being, we we are a spirit first. People don't realize that you are a spirit. You indwell flesh and blood. You're spirit first. You indwell a flesh and blood body, and that's why spirits that are outside of the body are able. Disembodied spirits are sometimes able, if you delve into the occult or different things, or whatever you're into, that can conjure them up. So it's so deep when you look into it. And the only reason I'm discussing all this stuff tonight is that because it's a much bigger picture. It's just not only just Dogman and Bigfoot. When you look into it, it's a bigger picture. These things existed back then, and so did when I bring up the cryptid aspect of it. If you want to bring up earlier, we were talking about the demigods, and you said that they were called the heroes of old, men of renown. Men of renown. We talk about Greek mythology, Hercules and Zeus. So you look at it like that. Do you have anything that you want to add to that at all? Because I've got more I want to say about it, but I'm going to let you go in on it.
Oh yeah, I mean there's a lot there. Um, as far as possession and spirits trying to get into a body, um, just to briefly mention, that's certainly not limited to Christianity. The Buddhists warn of hungry ghosts,
Mm-hmm.
of spirits that are of the dead who want to come back and get in your body so they can eat and drink and have sex and do the stuff they used to do while they were alive. And
Absolutely.
that's a big concern for them, that you don't get possessed by a hungry ghost. And it's a worldwide phenomena, that's something people are that's happened around the world. I mean, that it's a remembrance of something that happened, most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm glad you point out that a lot of these things, all of these things, all the things we're talking about, have more than one explanation. And sometimes there's overlap, and there's still the whole government lab angle that we haven't touched on because we don't have 10 hours. You know what I mean?
We're gonna come back. You're gonna come back again.
Oh yeah.
We still got another 45 minutes.
But yes, there's multiple explanations, and none of those explanations necessarily have to be wrong. There's a lot of overlap, and sometimes things that happened in ancient times may be happening now, but in a different way, and that's something I absolutely believe. And if the dinosaurs became intelligent and wiped themselves out, but not fully,
Mm-hmm.
some went up into the heavens and the powers of the air. Some went underground and are in the caverns and the hollow earth parts. And some went into the sea and
Mm-hmm.
are in the deep oceans and the lake monsters and all of that type of thing. And all
Mm-hmm.
those things intermix. And we have in Wisconsin a place called Devil's Lake. And the Native Americans had a belief that at the bottom of Devil's Lake, there was basically a portal to the underworld. And they believed that there were these partially, they were kind of like big cats, like panthers, and
Yes.
partially like snakes, and partially like fish, and like sea snakes, and they lived in Devil's Lake, but they really lived in the underworld that you could get to through a portal at the bottom of Devil's Lake. And they would come out and sometimes take human form and talk to people, and sometimes eat people and abduct them and kill them. And that was a very real belief they had right up until the settlers arrived.
Mm-hmm.
And then occult groups of, to be blunt, of white people from Chicago came and did occult rituals in that lake and summoned some of those beings. And I mean, I wasn't there, but I can say on pretty good authority from research that that did happen, you know, and
Absolutely.
those beings were still there and reaching out to try to interact with people today. And so these things go on.
Alexander Riga, if you still out there, I hope you're still out there. If you're not still, Al might have dropped off. If y'all know if Al dropped off or not. Al, if you're still out there, you said some of that can be explained by quantum physics. If you're still out there, what are you saying it can be explained by quantum physics? Aim to frame journeys in Bigfoot world. Thank you so much for your comment. I'm really enjoying the show tonight. I enjoyed it when I did Vincent's pre-interview. This guy is very deep. I'm gonna bring him back on 4 or 5 different shows, y'all. He's great. I mean, I'm
Hey,
telling y'all, like
anytime.
he's a walking encyclopedia. Bama Bigfoot said, "Where does it say in the Bible we would be mind speaking to anyone or anything?" You know what, Bama Bigfoot? That's a good question. You know what, Bama? I don't want to say it do because I don't remember that, and I really don't think mine's. I don't think it. I don't. To be honest with you, I don't think it does say anything about that. It has some weird stuff in there, and but at the same time, you also have to realize there's books that's been taken out. I don't know, and we don't know everything. I do also understand that the Bible has several. I don't know if there's over several hundred, or up to 1,000 different Bible versions. And when you translate it from one version to the next, and then some versions, like the New International Version, have completely just removed and taken out Bible verses, period. They're just not there. I have no idea. There's so many books. I feel like the Catholic Church probably has a lot of information that we're not privy to. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that they don't want us to know for whatever reason. Mind speaking to anyone or anything, I do feel like the only I don't think that the Bible said that we would be mind speaking to anyone or anything. And some people believe that we had that ability at some point before, but I don't personally, I don't know. I can't say because I wasn't there. But I do feel like that and angels and demons, I do believe that supernatural entities and beings and stuff like that, I do believe that they have the ability to do so. I know that I'm not going to go into it right now, but the dogman encounter that I had, the first one that I ever had, I do know that that is the one and only time that I can actually use as an example to say if anything ever did mind speak to me, that one first encounter was the only time I can say that something mind spoke and said, and it answered my thought. It answered what I asked, what I said out loud. I can't remember. It's been 2013. I can't remember if I said this out loud or if I thought it in my head, but I thought or said it out loud. Please, God, don't let that thing walk over here. This is during the first dogman sighting. Please, God, don't let that thing walk over here, because this will be one of those times that my automatic car doors has not locked, because sometimes that would happen. And I was terrified because I'm thinking it might walk over here, and I know how fast people say they can run or walk. So I'm thinking, please don't let that thing come over here. It wasn't that far away. It was only like 60 to 80 steps away. If I got out of the car and took 60 to 80 steps, I would have been face to face with that dog man that night. So I'm thinking, please don't let that thing walk over here. That thing, that creature said, and I didn't see its mouth move. Its mouth didn't move, but I heard in my head, oh, it's just you. No big deal. That is the one and only time that I can actually say, for me, that something mind spoke to me as far as a cryptid concerned. But as far as us having that ability, maybe at some point years ago, several generations or thousands of years ago, maybe we had that ability, but I'm not sure. So I can't really speak on it. You have anything that you wanted to add, Vincent?
Just a couple things. One, I finally got the comments turned on. So, yes, the Devil's Lake I'm talking about is in southern Wisconsin. But there's another Devil's Lake, I believe Oklahoma, that also has weird and crazy things and like a giant octopus in it and stuff that is of a similar nature. Um, as far as mind speaking, I don't know that much. And I'm amazed. I didn't plan on being all this biblical tonight, but since it led that way,
I
I'm
think it was supposed to be this way.
apparently. When you talk about mind speaking and talking without needing to open your mouth, I think of the Tower of Babel, and that maybe we were all on the same page up until that incident, and then suddenly we had to speak verbally, like when the languages were confused. I've always thought there was a deep meaning to the story of the Tower of Babel that was
Mhm.
beyond just the basics. There's a deeper level in there. And I've always thought that the Tower of Babel was a remembrance of a space program, that they were building a tower to heaven. Well, you're building a way to get to outer space, and everybody speaks the same language. And everybody's part of one society it's a one world government, okay? And I don't mean that in a negative way. It just that's what it is. It's a one world government. They're not divided, and then they become divided, and
Absolutely.
they lose the ability to communicate with each other automatically. And I feel that's all kind of somehow wrapped together, you know.
I agree with you. Earlier, you had mentioned something I found interesting when you were talking about some of the entities or beings that had gone. Probably you were talking about the inner. You talking about inside the earth. One thing I found interesting with that I kind of thought about was when Admiral Byrd talked about some of the creatures or beings that he saw when he went into the inner earth. He flew through that hole at the North Pole. One of the things he had mentioned that was very interesting to me, he mentioned the fact that he saw dinosaurs in there, and he mentioned all these other creatures that were in the inner earth. So when you look at that, and I think even Nick Redfern and some other people have also addressed that, when you look at it, there's several different possibilities for this. They say that they've seen reptilians and other creatures coming from the inner earth. So when you look at it, it's so many different things out there. I'm not gonna keep y'all all night because I know that we've been going for a while. But I do want to say this, y'all. There's so many different aspects that we still got to cover. There's still different aspects of this we got to cover. It's already about 10 o'clock at night Central Time, and I got started with Vincent tonight later than I intended to. Um, hey, Roger Davis, thank you for showing up tonight. And I know it's late. I'm not gonna keep y'all all night. Vincent was kind enough to entertain me tonight because I got on here later than I was supposed to. But I do want to say that I've got so much more. This is not over. He did my interview in two parts. I've made several notes tonight. There's several different things I still want to discuss with him. Well, I'm also going to have Vincent back with me when we come back and discuss the Nephilim. We're going Vincent, he and I, between he and I together, we're going to discuss the Nephilim, and not just the Nephilim. I want to bring outside of the Nephilim. I want to also bring the Anunnaki into this because this is within the New Age slash secular. You know what I'm saying? This is the other side of that. Do you understand what I'm saying, Vincent?
Oh yes,
You see
yes.
ancient aliens and stuff like that. They are scientific or they're outside of biblical beliefs or whatever on this, but at the same time, they will bring the Bible up when it. Um, Hold on, somebody made a comment. They will bring the Bible up when it suits them to bring it up. Now,
Yes. Yes.
but they also will use it at times to use it to discredit the Bible. Also, now I will say this real quick, and just to give you all examples. The reason I brought up the what's the show I just mentioned?
Ancient aliens.
Ancient Aliens. The reason I brought that up was because when they brought up the Anunnaki, what they also brought up was the biblical Genesis 6. So they were calling the Anunnaki the fallen or the Nephilim or the sons of God. The sons of God in the Old Testament, biblically speaking, the Old Testament, Jesus had not come yet. So in the Old Testament, the sons of God were referred to as the angels or the host of heaven. They were the angels. So the host of heaven, angels, also known as the Anunnaki, or also people don't realize, and I can't remember if this was in another verse in the Bible, Numbers. I don't know if this was number 13, whatever it was, but was also brought up. The sons of Anak were over there. Sons of Anak. So I'm gonna break this down for you. When you have different names, like the name John today, there was no J in the Hebrew alphabet, so the name John back then was Yehochanan. I can't do that Hebrew or Jewish. I don't know what you call that. You know what I'm saying? Like that. Yes, I can't do that. But it was not John. It was Yehochanan. Like y'all can hawk it up like that. That was how that was said. It wasn't Solomon. It was. I think Solomon was Shlomo. Shlomo. Jewish or Judah. It wasn't the tribe of Judah. It was the tribe of Yehuda. So it's very deep. So what I'm saying is that there were names back then. So our words today is derived from ancient Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek, and ancient Latin. So when they said the sons of Anak, the sons of Anak were giants. As he said, the sons of Anak were over there. Anak, Anunnaki. That's the same thing. Jack,
Yes. There's a
same
ton
thing.
of transliteration. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Jean becomes Juan in Spanish and
Yes.
becomes, on different things in different languages. And yeah, there's no way that there's not a connection between Anunnaki and repeat that. Those two are the same thing. They have to be. There's no way that could be a coincidence.
I'm gonna have to remove one person from this chat. They are basically a troll, basically for the most part. And let me see. No, she already did it. One of my moderators took care of it. Okay, so his comments can be seen. All right, so basically, y'all, we're gonna discuss this again. Dark Woods said the Bible is supernatural in and of itself. Cryptidville said it's the most supernatural book on the planet. Like I said, the book of Revelation, when y'all look into that, when y'all look at the four living creatures, when you look at the things that's supposed to be coming up out of the earth at the end of days, you will realize that these things, the Bible is a supernatural book. When you look at that, the book of Revelation had me terrified. It had me terrified because when you look at all that and it said that at the end of days that you're gonna have these things that have the faces of man, the teeth of a lion, the hair of a woman, and it sounds like 100 horses going to battle, and it had the tail of a scorpion. What kind of creature is that? Is that a chimera? That's like they done spliced 5 or 6 different things together. I don't want to see that. Please God, don't let me be alive when that come up on the earth. Mm-mm. Take me out right now. I'm serious.
I'm just gonna. I hate to interrupt, but let me
Go
just
ahead.
again. We've gotten very biblical, but that's cool. The verse that freaks me out the most is Revelation 9 and 11, where it says that God gave the key to the bottomless pit
Mm-hmm.
to Apollyon, which is, I believe, a powerful demon. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It is.
What freaks me out about it is just that it's 9/11, and 9/11,
Yep.
like something happened on 9/11, and did something change in the nature of reality at 9/11, where a key was given to the bottomless pit, and it's all downhill from there. Um, that just freaks me out. I don't have a great interpretation, but make of
No,
that what
no.
you will.
That was actually brought up back then. And you when you get to researching, like I didn't just start out like y'all know me right now, like a dogman researcher or a podcaster or a group admin or whatever. But I have been like into real deep stuff or research for years, like even back to wanting to be a theologian back in the day. Because for me, I need stuff to make sense. As a Christian, I need the Bible to make sense because some of this stuff don't make sense. And because at the point in time, like when it said, and I'm gonna bring this up, and we're gonna shut it down in the next 15 minutes, y'all. But some stuff that's in there, you have to understand that certain books have been taken out too, so that we don't get a full story. So when I saw that it said that Adam and Eve, they're the first people on the earth, but it makes you wonder were there more people there because it goes on to say when that they had their children Cain and Abel, but according to the Bible, there was only Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel. But it goes on to say that when Cain killed Abel, he was at land of Canaan and he found a wife. Wait a minute, he found a wife. Where did this wife come from? And no other people on the earth according to the Bible. So what happened? Each, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
The,
There would have to
so
be pre-existing humans. Uh, I mean, God isn't ordering incest. Okay, that's not how it works. Um,
right.
that would there's no inbreeding in the line that God created. No, that's not how it works. There were some sort of pre-existing people. It goes deeper than the basics. I absolutely
Mhm.
believe that.
And so many different things that get brought up, and a lot of stuff that's left out. So even back then, as a Christian, um, the Bible say that the earth has only been here 6,000, or it started like 6,000 years. Or like if you Christianity is, I don't want to say a spinoff, or for lack of a better word, a spinoff or offshoot or derivative of Judaism, and I think Islam is also. I think Islam they kind of catered more so towards the Old Testament. Christianity is going towards the New Testament, and we uphold some parts of the Old Testament, but they're offshoots of Judaism, and they're both ancient. But there's a lot of stuff now people don't realize. Like I'm not a Muslim, I'm not any of that. But what I have learned over the years that is that there's bits of truth in different religions and different belief systems. I don't agree with everything that's in the Bible. I don't agree with everything that's in the Quran. I don't believe, I can't remember what the Hindu book is, a Mahabharata or something like that. But there's bits of truth in every different books. And so when you get into it, you just have to realize that there's a lot of truth out there, and then even outside of Christianity, look into different things, the things that make sense. You have to take all those things into account and realize that we're living in these times today. You got to look at why are these things coming back now. If there's nothing new thing under the sun, then why are these things coming back now? It's if you look at the hieroglyphs inside of the pyramids, you got Sobek, that's the alligator head god. You got Horus and Isis. Isis was a winged humanoid, and you got flying humanoids being talked about today. You got Horus, the bird headed god. The four living creatures had the head of this and the head of that. it didn't say anything about the body, so it means that the body wasn't the body of those animals. So when you look at all that and you look at what we got today, and I know, like when I was researching Satanism and the music industry and the Illuminati and all this kind of stuff, when you get into it, it talks about how there's that everything is hidden in plain sight. That they tell you in music videos and movies and Hollywood and in entertainment, they show you what's really going on behind the scenes, but they understand and know that most people won't get it. They won't understand that they're showing you what's really going on, but most people are going to look at it and say, "Oh, that's just a fairy tale. That's just movies." No, this stuff is actually going on in Hollywood. This stuff is actually them showing you what's really going on in the world. Do you think that when they did the movie The Predator, that they didn't understand that there were beings out there in the forest that already actually did this? They saw this. You remember the guy, what was that Star Wars movie or whatever? You remember when he did, I can't remember the guy who directed or produced the movie Star Wars, but what was the one on there that looked like a Bigfoot?
Oh,
I forgot.
yeah, he's the Wookiee. He's
Anybody out there in the comments right now, y'all
Chewbacca.
seen
It's
Star
Chewbacca.
Chewbacca?
Chewbacca.
And I think that he said something along the lines of it had something to do with something related to Bigfoot, where he came from, came with that idea. I can't remember exactly what it was now. If y'all know that, y'all can leave it in the comments. We're in an hour and 36 minutes, so we're going to get ready to wrap it up. But I just wanted to let y'all know that there's all these things that we're seeing today. All this stuff is all intertwined. It's not the paranormal, supernatural. There's a paranormal, supernatural aspect of these. D. Robinson, I'm gonna bring up his comment. There's a paranormal supernatural aspect of these. They can go completely invisible. I have recorded on video and on audio before, and I swear I'm still upset about this to this day. One day, my mom always thought it was ridiculous that I took pictures and videos and stuff like that, even though I knew what was back there. She thought it was ridiculous and stupid. And so she always had an iPhone, and she decided, let me see your phone. I want to see what the Samsung phone is like. I had no idea that she was going through my photo gallery, and she literally started removing so many pictures and videos. She removed the greatest videos ever that if I wish to God, like I swear, I wish I still had this video on the phone right now, because if I had this video on the phone right now, y'all would have seen in real time on video. And I swear I'm not lying to y'all, and I'm not sensationalizing this. Y'all would have seen, I don't know what to call it. I'm gonna say dogman, but I also at the same time don't want to call it a dogman, because it had more feline type features where it almost looked like a lion, a feline type face. But in real time, you saw that on video go from nothing to like manifesting on camera, like blinking and everything. It was like an 11-minute video. She started removing stuff, and I can't remember. Well, she removed some other stuff. I think I actually was the one who ended up trying to clean up my phone one day. I was the one who actually removed that by accident. I wish I'd had an iPhone in that moment, because in an iPhone you can go back in the trash, like the stuff that you removed, and you can bring it back. I'm like, no, you just removed something that was like proof. It was great. I mean, there's some amazing stuff. You can capture Dogman and Bigfoot or any of that stuff, but people don't realize, and I learned this on my own. Nobody told me this. Audio can be recorded. If you're out there recording, even if you're not recording video, turn your cameras on, turn your phone on video camera or audio. Record while you're walking through the woods. You will capture stuff that you didn't hear with your naked ears. You will capture that after you go back and listen to it. Things that you didn't hear at the time. Did you have anything you want to say on that, Vincent?
Yes. From everything I've researched, just a couple things. Uh, Old school technology tends to work better than electronics. For some reason that we don't know why, but um, non-digital, pre-digital technology tends to capture things better. That's kind of why the Patterson Gimlin film is still like the gold standard for Bigfoot footage.
Yes.
Um, so maybe they're able to manipulate electronics easier. I don't know. Audio definitely is easier to record than video. Video is like the hardest thing, and
Mm-hmm.
like you were saying, it seems to work better when you're not like looking through the, when you're not visibly recording it. When it's kind of accidentally recorded,
Mm-hmm.
um, that seems to work better. But there is also a problem that evidence of this stuff tends to disappear. And not because it's not real. I don't mean that at all. It's just, it's a universal thing that solid video evidence of this stuff tends, and physical evidence like DNA and people who've got hair and people who've got blood and stuff like that, it tends to disappear. And part of that, part of that, undoubtedly, some of it is the government agencies making it disappear. But other times it just seems to be taken away. It's like the phenomena itself can reach in and take stuff away. It'll just somehow
Absolutely.
not be there. So that's, I don't know if you had been able to save that. I don't know if you still have it. I don't know if either it would have
Well,
been removed.
no, I agree with you. I mean, I think that they have the ability to actually, they have the ability to create that blurred effect. People, it's not always operator malfunction. These creatures have the
Oh
ability
no.
to do it.
Well, and
Um,
a friend of mine who is involved with electronics mentioned that taking pictures of our own very day to day, some of our military aircraft have that same effect that you get. They can only be photographed blurred because they're painted with a special paint. That if you try to take a picture of them with a modern day camera, you get a blurry effect, and
oh, absolutely.
it's a tactical thing that exists. Yeah, so there's a lot to it.
Damien K said they transport the helicopter. Damien K, I don't know. I don't know if you were referring to that giant of Kandahar. Yes, they did. If that's what you're talking about, they did transport him by helicopter. I know he was supposed to be like 1,100 pounds. Um, Al Sanriga said, and he may not be. It's 10:17, and I'm kind of late on the comments, but he said Little Red Riding Hood is a German dogman story. Wow, Al, I'm not sure if you're still in here. If you're not, I'm going to message you after the show is over with. I didn't know that. That's very interesting. And I always wondered to some point, Little Red Riding Hood, the grandma, that's in a human's body. I mean, regular wolf in the bed. I mean, you can't put on your grandma's gown if you're in a regular wolf body. I always thought that was strange. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so y'all, Vincent will be back. I have also been on his show. Vincent, hold on. Hold on. I'm going to take a couple of more. But Vincent, while I'm looking up the last few comments, did you have a group or a show or podcast that you want to tell the public about so they can know, so they can go over to your channel and look that up?
Oh yes, thanks, Bettina. Um, I am the host of my fledgling podcast, The Weird Part with Vincent Treewell. It's available on podcatchers, on YouTube, um, or just go to vincenttreewell.wordpress.com or Google Vincent Treewell in the quotation marks, and you'll get me. And yes, I have a podcast. Um, Bettina's been my guest, and she definitely will be again. And we cover a vast spectrum of weird topics, definitely including cryptids, but a whole lot of things: the paranormal, um, cult activity and beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
conspiracies, and weird crimes. And if you find this interesting, you'll probably find my thing interesting too. Um, so, yes, the weird part with Vincent Treewell. Thank you very
Y'all,
much.
I'm telling y'all right now, Vincent Treewell, he is the real deal. I'm telling you, like, I don't even want to get off right now, but me and Vincent could go on for another 3 hours. I'm telling y'all, like, because I done covered, like, I've got like so many notes right now. when I look off to the side, y'all, sometimes I'm reading y'all's comments, but sometimes I'm writing stuff because I try for the most part not to always cut the guests off while they're talking, and I'll make a little note. Like just right now, I've got like 2 pages, 2 whole pages of notes of stuff that we didn't even discuss yet. So Vincent's gonna be on here about 5 more times. If not, he's gonna be a regular on here. I'm just gonna say that.
This is the notebook of what stuff I plan to talk about in case we didn't have anything. Yeah, we covered about 5 to 10%.
Absolutely right. We got so many different stuff, y'all. Anything else that y'all want to hear us talk about? Because matter of fact, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Because I didn't even we when we talk like it's just kind of all over the place because it's so many different aspects, and we try to bring it all full circle. So we didn't fully only talk about Bigfoot and Dogman tonight. There's a lot to discuss on that, but I think I do so many shows on Bigfoot and Dogman that at this point it's also necessary to cover the other aspects, the paranormal aspect of it. People don't realize that a lot of people who have had Bigfoot or Dogman sightings or any cryptid sightings on their property have also had other paranormal experiences happening in their homes or UFO sightings. And so when you bring it all together, and so this is where I'm coming from with this, is this people need to understand you have to bring it all together in order for it to make sense. It's not by chance that the people who have had Dogman and Bigfoot sightings, oh, they just also happen to have a UFO sighting several years ago or a few years ago. You've seen them several times, or that you also have alien visitations in your room at night, or that you also deal with sleep paralysis or paranormal activity in your home. It's all interrelated because it's of a spiritual nature. It's flesh and blood, yet spiritual at the same time. Understand that you are also a spirit, and that is why when you are out in the woods, people don't realize this, and I think about this on a real deep level. I told y'all before, and I'm not perfect, and I've done so much wrong in this world. You can call me reprobate or whatever you want to call me, but at the same time, I'm deep when it comes to the Bible, and I understand stuff. And God forgive me for my sins and all that good stuff. But I need it to make sense. For my level of understanding, I need, when it comes down to it, there's a level of what people don't understand is that when it comes to cryptids, alien abductions, sightings, and encounters, and paranormal activity in your home. The reason a lot of the times certain people have these things happen to them is because, for whatever reason, you are spiritually in tune, or your third eye is open, or you are some people on the secular end of it might want to call it a medium, or a psychic, or a sensitive, or a seer. But then on the Christian aspect of it, we'll call that you have discernment of spirit. Discernment of spirit means that you have the ability to see spirits, to hear spirits. Spirits communicate and contact you. You are aware of them and they are aware of you. They will make themselves known to you. They will manifest to you. Sometimes they will manifest in front of you. Sometimes you will hear them. Sometimes you won't see them at all, but you are aware that there's another spirit in the room. Why? Because you are a spirit first. Your spirit becomes aware that there's another spirit. Your spirit. Your spirit is what aware makes you alert, not your flesh and blood. Your spirit makes you aware that there's another spirit in the room with you. That's why sometimes if you are in your home and if your mother or father is standing over you long enough and you're on the couch sleep, your eyes are closed, but you can feel their presence standing next to you, and you wake up and you look. Or it's been times when I was married and I woke up and I looked over and my husband might be staring at me. I'm like, I would get creeped out because I would be like, why are you looking at me like that? That's weird. I'm creeped out. But your spirit is aware that there's something going on. You become aware of that. If somebody said you are a spirit first, that's why you're aware of stuff. That's why during sleep paralysis, you become aware, especially not just during sleep paralysis, most of the time, there's not a positive spirit for me that's come in the room. Most people who've had sleep paralysis is a negative spirit experience or an evil entity, or you see what's in there or you don't, but you feel a presence come in and sit on your chest or whatever. Your spirit makes you aware of that. So I just need y'all to understand. It's real deep when you get into it. Just understand that there's different aspects to this, and it's all intertwined. It's all spiritual. It is flesh and blood because you also indwell flesh and blood. So it shouldn't be so strange. Your spirit first. You're living in flesh and blood. So Dogman and Bigfoot and other cryptids that are weird and can do these things that we can't do and other things can't do, they are able to do those things because they're spirit first. They just inhabit flesh and blood. It's not so strange when you put it like that. What other means can you explain it all? That's the only way that makes sense for me. Whatever belief you got that you want to come up with, rationalize it. That's the only way it makes sense. Vincent, do you have any closing words?
No, other than I can't wait to come back and talk some more about all these things. We've just scratched the surface. I mean, there's a whole lot there, and I look forward to being part of it. I've really enjoyed tonight.
I have too.
This is what I like doing. This is where it's at.
I'm excited.
Thanks for everybody listening. I mean, I really appreciate having an audience to talk about these things that can kind of get it. Bettina is one of the few people that really hits it at all those levels. That's rare. That's not common, and I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate it too. And this ain't the end of him, y'all. Like he gonna be back again. Like I really appreciate people like this because when I talk to other people who understand and try to make sense of it on this level, like I do, I really appreciate it because it doesn't make me. I don't feel weird anyway because I understand it. I prayed over this years ago, and alien abductions and all that kind of stuff. I didn't understand that demonic possession. I understood it, but there's certain aspects of it on an alien level. We're gonna touch on this in another show. I got so many different. We got like 10 shows out of what he and I can talk about. There's several different areas to discuss as far as it's concerned. So I don't want to keep y'all all night. I just want y'all to understand, Vincent. What I want you to do is after the show is over with, if you would send me a message on Messenger and send me the link to your channel or your website, and I will post that in the link beneath this video. And also, if you would also post that link to your channel or your website or your podcast, also share that in the group as well, because I want people to go check you out. Have you posted my interview with you yet?
Yes, the latest thing is my interview with you. I think that's 2 weeks ago, but yes, it's up there.
Okay, make sure. And Chris Kramer, I don't know if you're still out there or not. I'm gonna contact you again tomorrow. I'm just letting you see right now, Chris, that there are other people out there like us that believe this way. I learned a lot from him today, Vincent. I mean, so I just want y'all to know, Roy Faulkner, thank you for showing up tonight. Damien K, I really appreciate you showing up tonight. Damien K said Moloch in the Bible and combines them with various sources, including ancient accounts of Carthaginian child sacrifice and the legends of the Minotaur. What was it? Was it Moloch? Moloch in the Bible. Child sacrifice.
I think his worshippers threw their children into a fire. That sounds familiar to me.
Yes, and he mentioned the Minotaur, and I remember Moloch in the Bible. Remember Moses came down from that mountain. They had a golden bull that they were worshiping. So when you look at that, he just mentioned here in this like the Minotaur. So they were. So is it like that they really weren't worshiping regular bulls? Were they really worshiping a half man, half bull? There was a video a few years ago on YouTube called "The Cow Man of Corpalis Pass" or something like that. And this was creepy. I mean, it had a cow's head.
Wow.
So it's just a lot of stuff. Roger Davis.
Yeah.
Roger Davis, thank you. I mentioned this earlier. Thank you so much. I said that, I think. The Seraphim are reptile looking for ancient Hebrew. Roger, I don't know if you're friends with me on Facebook. If not, can you leave it in the comment below and please let me know where you came up with that? Is that in the Bible or how did you? I'm going to Google that. You're the second or third person to say that at this point, and I need to know about this now. So the seraphim are reptile looking for ancient Hebrew. The seraphim, for y'all that don't know, those were one of the different types of angels. Seraphim, cherubim, angels, archangels. There's several different variations. Principalities, all that kind of stuff. Seraphim was one of those categories of angels. So that's even more interesting because the seraphim by Hebrew are reptile looking, then was that serpent that appeared before Eve, was he a seraphim? The reptile? Do you understand what I'm saying? Was that
A
because they
rogue
said that
seraphim, yeah.
they were in the Garden of Eden, and it said that he put angels over charge of and over watch of the Garden of Eden. So if that's the case, was Satan one of those seraphim that kind of deflected off from his original purpose and basically came to Eve, the seraphim? This is interesting. This is the second or third time I've heard this now. So anyway, guys, we're gonna say good night. We're at 2 hours now, and we're gonna say good night. And I want to thank you all for showing up. Thank you. This is a great show. He and I are gonna work together, and we are going to categorize different topics so that we're not somewhat all over the place. But at the same time, for me, when it comes down to this, these are better interviews a lot of the time because you're able to try to bring stuff together. But a lot of the times, maybe there's certain different things that y'all might want to ask about a certain topic, and we're jumping from one topic to the next. So I'm gonna get together with Vincent before this weekend is out, and we're gonna discuss several different arenas or areas of discussion that we're gonna have, and we're gonna break it up and chop it up for you guys in topics. Chris Kramer, thank you for showing up tonight. Bama Bigfoot, Al Sanariga, Roy Faulkner, Marquetta, everybody else who showed up tonight, Damien K. We appreciate all y'all. Cryptidville, thank you. Castor Polex 15, Dark Woods, thank you for showing up tonight. Primal Cry, Albert Trent Jr., I appreciate all y'all. I'm just trying to go. I don't want to go through here. I don't want to leave anybody out. I appreciate all y'all for showing up tonight. There were people who showed up as bots tonight, and I'm going to block them from the channel after this show is over with. Thank you, Marquetta, for getting rid of those people. We're going to get rid of that completely. Dark Woods, Kevin Paddles, thank you for showing up tonight. Y'all, I'm got sleepy. I'm going to go. I'm going to go get something to eat and all that good stuff. So, y'all, thank you. Kevin is going to share. I keep calling you Kevin. I keep calling you everything under the sun. I be talking to too many people. So, Vincent, good night. Everybody out there, thank y'all. Good night. And we will end this broadcast now. And I will see you guys on the other side, and I will update you when we have our next show. Thank you, guys. Good night.
Thank you very much.